The ship was very quiet. It was a metal beast floating in the dark space between stars. This was the Earth's Hope, the biggest ship humans had ever built. It was not a warship. It was a ship for peace. Inside, the lights were bright, and the air was cold. The crew walked with fast steps, carrying tablets, and talking in low voices. They were nervous. Today was a big day. At the front of the ship, in the main command room, stood a man named Harrison. He was the president of Earth. He was an old man with white hair and a kind face. He wore a simple blue suit, not a military uniform. He believed in talking, not fighting. For 10 years, he had tried to make humans friends with the aliens of the galaxy. It was a hard job. Many aliens thought humans were dangerous monkeys. But Harrison kept trying. Standing next to him was Mark. Mark was younger, with dark hair and glasses. He was Harrison's best helper. Mark held a small computer in his hand. He looked at the numbers on the screen. His hands were shaking a little bit. "Their ship is getting close," Mark said. His voice was low. "The Vex are here, sir." Harrison nodded. He looked out of the big window at the front of the ship. Outside, the stars were bright and still. Then, a shadow moved over them. A Vex ship appeared. It was huge, much bigger than the Earth's Hope. It was shaped like a sharp knife and made of black metal that seemed to drink the light. It looked scary and powerful. "Open the channel," Harrison said. He took a deep breath and fixed his tie. "Let them see we are not afraid." A screen on the wall flickered to life. An alien face appeared. It was a Vex commander. The Vex looked like tall insects made of shiny metal. They had 4 eyes that glowed with a cold blue light. This commander wore gold armor on his shoulders. He looked down at the humans like they were dirt. "I am Commander Zalvos of the Vex Empire," the alien said. His voice sounded like metal scraping on metal. It was loud and harsh. "You are the leader of the humans." "I am Harrison," the old man said. He stepped forward so the camera could see his face. "I represent Earth and all its people. We come to talk about the treaty. We want to be part of the galactic conglomerate. We want peace." The Vex commander made a noise. It was like a laugh, but cold and mean. "Peace? You are nothing. You are small. You are weak. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are rocks and sticks. You do not deserve peace." Harrison did not get angry. He stayed calm. He had dealt with insults before. "We may be young compared to you," Harrison said. "But we are strong. We have spirit. We can offer you trade. We can offer you art, and music, and soldiers who never give up. We do not want war. We want to live together." The Vex commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "You talk too much, human. We do not need your art. We need your metal. We need your planets. You have something we want." Mark leaned in close to Harrison. "Sir," he whispered, "their energy readings are going up. Their weapons are charging." Harrison held up a hand to silence Mark. He looked straight at the alien on the screen. "We will not give you our land," Harrison said. His voice was firm, like rock. "We are free. If you try to take what is ours, we will fight. But I hope it does not come to that. Put down your weapons. Let us sign a paper. Let us be friends." For a second, the room was silent. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engine. The Vex commander stared at Harrison. The alien did not understand kindness. To the Vex, kindness was a weakness. "Free," the commander said. "You are free until we say you are not." Suddenly, the alien moved his hand. On the screen, a bright light flashed. But it was not on the screen. A teleport beam, green and sparkling, shot out from a device on the Vex ship. It went through the window of the Earth's Hope. It was impossible. The shields should have stopped it. But the Vex technology was too advanced. The light materialized on the bridge of the Earth's Hope. Standing there was the Vex commander. He was huge, 9 feet tall. He smelled like ozone and burnt dust. He was right in front of Harrison. The human security guards were too surprised to move. They raised their guns, but they were too slow. "No!" Mark shouted. Harrison did not step back. He looked up at the metal monster. He thought he could still talk. He thought he could still fix this. "We can talk about th," Harrison started to say. Zap. A beam of red plasma shot from a gun in the commander's hand. It hit Harrison in the chest. There was a loud sound, like a thunderclap inside the room. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Harrison fell. He hit the metal floor hard. He did not move. His eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, but the light was gone from them. The man who wanted peace was dead. He was killed before he could finish his sentence. The silence that followed was heavy. It pressed down on everyone in the room like a heavy weight. The Vex commander stood over the body. He looked at the dead old man. He did not look sorry. Mark stared at his friend. His mouth was open, but no sound came out. He felt cold. He felt empty. The kind leader, the man who had protected Earth for so long, was gone. Just like that. Snuffed out by an alien who didn't care. The Vex commander turned his head. He looked at the other humans in the room. He looked at James, the captain of the guard. James stood near the door. He was a tall man with short brown hair. He wore a black uniform. He had a gun on his hip. "Look at this," the Vex commander said. His voice boomed in the quiet room. "Your leader is dead. He was weak. Now, you will obey me. Or you will all die like him." The alien expected the humans to scream. He expected them to cry. He expected them to fall on their knees and beg for their lives. That is what other species did. That is what weak creatures did. But the humans did not scream. James looked at Harrison's body. He saw the smoke rising from the chest. He saw the blood pooling on the floor. James had known Harrison for 20 years. Harrison had helped James when he was young. Harrison had given him a chance when no one else would. Something inside James broke. It was not his heart. It was the chain that held his anger back. For years, humanity had been calm. They had been polite. They had swallowed their pride to join the Galactic Club. But now, the club had killed the president. James did not look at the alien. He looked at his men. There were 5 guards in the room. They were young men named Chris, Steve, Brian, and the twins, Mike and Matt. They were trembling, but not with fear. They were trembling with rage. The Vex commander laughed again. "Do you see you are nothing? You are helpless. Bow down to me." James slowly reached for his gun. It was a simple pistol. It used bullets made of lead. It was old technology. But James's hand was steady. "I have a message for your people," James said. His voice was very quiet. It was so quiet that the alien had to lean down to hear. What speak, worm, the Vex commander said. James lifted his head. His eyes were dead cold. There was no fear in them anymore. There was only a promise. We are not helpless, James said. And we do not bow. Click. The sound of the safety turning off was loud in the quiet room. The Vex commander realized his mistake a second too late. He saw the look in the human's eyes. It was a look he had never seen before in any species. It was a look that said, I am going to kill you even if I die doing it. The alien raised his plasma gun to shoot James. But he was too slow. James fired his gun. Once. Twice. 3 times. The bullets hit the Vex commander in the faceplate. The glass cracked. The alien staggered back, howling in surprise and pain. Fire! James shouted. The room erupted in noise. The guards opened fire. Chris and Steve fired their rifles. Brian fired his shotgun. The sound was deafening in the enclosed bridge. The Vex commander tried to raise his shield, but the sheer volume of bullets was too much. The kinetic impact knocked him backward. He smashed into the console panels. Sparks flew everywhere. Mark stood over Harrison's body. He watched the chaos. He watched the alien leader being torn apart by human bullets. Part of him wanted to stop it. Part of him wanted to say, no, we are better than this. But that part was small. The bigger part of him was glad. The Vex commander fell to his knees. His armor was dented and smoking. He looked up at James. The alien was afraid now. You monsters, the alien coughed, black oil leaking from his mouth. James walked up to the alien. He pointed his gun right between the alien's 4 eyes. We told you, James said. We are not weak. We are just nice. But you killed the good man. Now you get the bad men. James pulled the trigger. The alien slumped over, dead. The bridge was silent again. The smell of gunpowder mixed with the smell of ozone. The humans stood there, breathing hard. Their hearts were beating fast. James holstered his gun. He turned around to look at the crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. James walked over to the main console. He pressed a button. A red light filled the room. It was the alert signal. Attention all hands, James said. His voice was hard, like iron. This is Captain James. President Harrison is dead. Murdered by the Vex. He paused. He looked at the stars through the window. The stars looked cold and distant. We tried peace, James said. They didn't want it. So now, we try something else. He looked at Mark. Mark nodded. He didn't need to say anything. He walked to the weapons console and started typing fast. He was unlocking the codes. The codes that Harrison had promised never to use. James spoke into the intercom again. His voice shook the ship. Tell the fleet. Tell the Earth. Tell everyone. The leash is off. We are going to war. On the screen, the Vex ship outside was turning. They had seen what happened. They were confused. They were charging their main weapons to destroy the Earth's hope. But James smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf that had finally caught the rabbit. Load the kinetic rods, James ordered. Target their engines. Target their bridge. Don't let them leave. Outside, the Earth's hope began to move. It was slow at first, but then it went faster. It turned its nose toward the Vex ship. The war had started. The humans were angry. And the galaxy was about to learn why the rest of the universe had been right to be afraid of them. The galaxy had killed the peacemaker. Now they would have to deal with the warriors. And as the ship accelerated toward the enemy, the silence of space was filled with the roar of human fury. The news traveled faster than light. On Earth, the sun was just coming up over the big cities. People were drinking coffee and driving to work. Children were getting on school buses. It was a normal Tuesday. Then, every phone buzzed at the exact same time. Every television screen flickered and changed to the same channel. On the screens, there was no news anchor. There was just a video. It was a recording from the bridge of the Earth's Hope. It showed Harrison standing there, looking old and kind. It showed the Vex commander appearing in the flash of green light. It showed the shot. It showed Harrison falling. Then, the video cut to James standing over the dead alien. It showed the cold look in his eyes. Then, a message flashed across the screen in big red letters: "They killed the president. Wake up." In a small house in the countryside, David sat in his kitchen. He was an old man now, with gray hair and rough hands. He used to be a general, but he retired. He just wanted to plant tomatoes and read books. He looked at his phone on the table. He saw the video. He saw Harrison die. David did not cry. He did not shout. His face became very still. He stood up and walked out of the kitchen. He went to the shed in the backyard. It was locked. He opened it with a rusty key. Inside, hanging on the wall, was a uniform. It was green and crisp. It had medals on the chest. David took the uniform down. He put it on. It still fit, but it felt tighter than before. He looked at himself in the dusty mirror. The kind farmer was gone. The general was back. In a tall building in the city, Ryan sat in a room filled with screens. He was a young man, very smart, and he worked for the government. He watched the maps on his screens. Dots of light were appearing all over the world. Big cities, small towns, military bases. Ryan picked up a red phone. "This is Ryan," he said. "Sir," a voice said. "We are detecting massive energy signatures all over the globe." "I know," Ryan said. "Let them happen." Ryan looked at the main screen. It showed the moon. On the dark side of the moon, where no telescope could see, huge doors were opening. They had been hidden for 50 years. Behind those doors were giant metal structures. They were cannons. They were called the Spartan Array. For years, humans had pretended they were weak. They let the aliens think Earth had no defenses. It was a trick. And now, the trap was springing open. The phone on Ryan's desk rang again. It was a direct line. Ryan picked it up. "I am here," David said. His voice sounded like gravel. "Sir," Ryan said. "The codes are ready. We are waiting for your word." David looked out his window at the garden. He thought about his grandchildren. He thought about Harrison. "We do not need a strategy meeting," David said. "We know what to do. Activate the Macedon protocol." Ryan swallowed hard. The Macedon protocol. It was a plan from the old days. It was not a plan to win a war. It was a plan to destroy an enemy completely. No surrender. No peace talks. Just total victory. "Yes, sir," Ryan said. "Macedon protocol is active." Ryan typed a command into his computer. He pressed the enter key. Far away, on the moon, the Spartan array woke up. The giant guns turned. They pointed toward the Vex fleet that was waiting near Jupiter. The Vex ships were floating there, laughing. They thought the humans on Earth were crying. They thought the humans would surrender. They were wrong. Blue light gathered on the moon. It got brighter and brighter. It looked like a second moon was being born. In the Pentagon, alarms were blaring. But no one was running away. They were running to their stations. Men and women in uniforms were shouting orders. They were loading missiles. They were fueling jets. David drove his old truck down the highway. He did not drive slow. He drove fast. Other cars were on the road, honking their horns. People were waving flags out of their windows. They were angry. David saw a young man in a car next to him, shouting at the sky. The young man had a flag painted on his face. David nodded. The spirit was there, the whole world was one person now. The anger of billions of hearts was beating as one. Back in the control room, Ryan watched a screen showing the Vex ship near Jupiter. It was the same ship that had killed Harrison. It was waiting for a message of surrender. "They are hailing us, sir," an officer said. "The Vex are asking for our surrender." "Tell them," Ryan said. His voice was cold. "Tell them we are sending a package." Ryan pointed at the screen. "Fire." On the moon, the Spartan array fired. It was silent in space, but the energy was huge. A railgun, a giant magnet gun, fired a projectile. It was not a laser. It was a solid metal rod. It was the size of a telephone pole. It was made of heavy tungsten. It moved at 20 times the speed of sound. It took a few minutes to cross the distance between the moon and Jupiter. On Earth, everyone held their breath. Everyone watched the live feed from a telescope. The metal rod hit the Vex ship. The Vex had shields. Their shields were good at stopping lasers and plasma. But they could not stop a telephone pole made of heavy metal moving that fast. The shields popped like soap bubbles. The rod went straight through the Vex ship. It ripped through the front. It went through the engine room. It came out the back. The ship did not explode right away. It just broke apart. Huge pieces of metal flew off into space. The air inside the ship rushed out, carrying debris and dead aliens. The Vex fleet near Jupiter panicked. They scattered. They turned their ships to run. But it was too late. The Spartan array fired again. And again. 10 rods, 20 rods, 50 rods. They shot across the solar system like rain of death. Ryan watched the tactical map. One by one, the red dots representing Vex ships disappeared. "Target destroyed," a computer voice said. "Target destroyed. Target destroyed." It was a slaughter. The Vex, who thought they were gods, were being shot down like ducks. David walked into the Pentagon. The guard saluted him. He walked into the control room. Everyone stood up when he entered. He walked over to Ryan. "Is it done?" David asked. "The fleet near Jupiter is gone, sir," Ryan said. "But there are more Vex ships coming. They have a big fleet near Saturn." David looked at the map. He saw the new red dots. He did not look worried. He looked determined. "Good," David said. "That gives us something else to shoot." He turned to the room. Everyone was watching him. They were waiting for a speech. David was not good at speeches. He was a soldier. "We lost a good man today," David said. Harrison was the best of us. He wanted to be friends with the stars. The stars said no. David paused. He looked at the screen showing the debris of the Vex ship. So now, David said, we will teach them a lesson. We will show them that humans can be peaceful. But if you kill our leader, we will burn your empire to the ground. He looked at Ryan. Prepare the ground troops. Prepare the fleets. We are not staying on Earth anymore. Yes, sir, Ryan said. Launch everything, David ordered. If they want a war, they will get a war. Suddenly, a light started blinking on the main console. It was a signal from deep space. Sir, Ryan said. We are picking up a signal. It is coming from the Iron Will. David smiled. The Iron Will was a heavy cruiser. It was commanded by Kevin. Kevin was one of the best captains David had ever trained. What is the message? David asked. Ryan listened to his headset. A smile spread across his face. They say they are already in position, Ryan said. Kevin says they are engaging the enemy at Saturn. David nodded. Good. Let them fight. On the screen, a new camera feed opened. It was from the bridge of the Iron Will. It was shaking. There was smoke in the air. Alarms were blaring. But the crew was working hard. They looked angry, but they looked ready. The story of humanity had changed. In one day, they had gone from a peaceful planet to a war machine. The aliens had woken up the sleeping giant. And now, the giant was awake, and he was very, very angry. David looked at the picture of Harrison on the wall. We will make them pay, old friend, David whispered. We will make them all pay. The screen showed the stars. The stars were cold and beautiful. But soon, the space between them would be filled with fire. The humans were coming. And they were not coming to talk. They were coming to win. The space near the planet Saturn was usually quiet. The rings of the planet made beautiful circles of ice and rock. But today, the silence was broken by the sounds of engines and weapons fire. The Vex fleet was gathered there. They had hundreds of ships. They were big, black, and scary. They thought they were safe. They thought the humans were too far away to hurt them. But they were wrong. Hidden behind the largest moon of Saturn, a fleet of human ships appeared. They did not come from a jump gate. They just appeared. They had been waiting, dark and silent, for a long time. At the front of this fleet was the Iron Will. It was a heavy cruiser. It was not as pretty as the alien ships. It looked like a big block of metal with engines on the back. But it was strong. It was built to take hits and keep fighting. Inside the Iron Will, the bridge was dark. The only light came from the screens on the walls and the buttons on the consoles. The air smelled like coffee and electric smoke. Kevin stood in the middle of the room. He was the captain. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and short hair. He held a cup of coffee in his hand, but he wasn't drinking it. He was staring at the big screen in front of him. On the screen, he could see the Vex ships. They were floating in a perfect line. They looked arrogant. Captain, a young officer named Tom said. We are in range. The Vex have not seen us yet. Their sensors are looking the other way. Kevin took a sip of his coffee. It was cold. He didn't care. He put the cup down on a metal table. He thought about Harrison. He remembered the day Harrison shook his hand and told him he was a good captain. That memory hurt now. They are looking at Earth, Kevin said quietly. They are waiting for us to surrender. They are waiting for us to cry. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all young. Men and women. Some were scared, but all of them were angry. They saw the news feed. They knew Harrison was dead. "We are not going to surrender," Kevin said. His voice got louder. "We are not going to cry. We are going to hit them so hard that their ancestors will feel it." Kevin walked to his chair and sat down. He strapped himself in. "Load the kinetic rods," Kevin ordered. "Target the biggest ship. The one in the middle." "Loaded, sir," Tom said. "Target locked," said Sarah, the weapons officer. Kevin took a deep breath. "Fire." The iron will shook. A massive gun at the front of the ship fired. It wasn't a laser. It was a railgun. It used magnets to shoot a piece of metal at incredible speed. The projectile was invisible to the eye, but it carried the power of a bomb. In space, the metal rod traveled silently. It crossed the distance in seconds. It slammed into the side of the big Vex ship. The Vex shields flared blue for a second. Then, they shattered. The rod punched through the thick metal hull of the alien ship. It went deep inside the ship. Then, it exploded. The force of the explosion ripped the ship apart. A fireball lit up the dark space near Saturn. Debris flew everywhere. "Direct hit," Sarah shouted. "Target destroyed." On the bridge, the crew let out a cheer. It was a loud, angry cheer. Kevin didn't cheer. He just watched the fire. "Don't celebrate yet," Kevin said. "Keep shooting. Fire everything." The human fleet came out from behind the moon. There were 50 ships. They all fired at once. It was a storm of metal. The Vex ships tried to fight back. They turned their ships and fired their plasma lasers. Red and green beams of light shot across space. Some of them hit the human ships. The iron will shook hard. Sparks flew from the ceiling. "Shields down to 80%. Tom shouted. "They hit us on the left side." "Hold steady," Kevin yelled. "Don't move. Keep firing." Outside the ship, small fighters were swarming. They were like angry bees attacking a bear. One of the best pilots was Chris. He flew a ship called the Viper. It was small and fast. Chris had been a race car driver before the war. Now, he used those skills to kill aliens. Chris flew his ship right into the middle of the Vex formation. The Vex tried to lock their missiles on him, but he was too fast. He rolled his ship and ducked behind an asteroid. "Got you," Chris said to himself. He saw a Vex destroyer, a medium-sized ship, firing on a human transport ship. The transport ship was big and slow. It couldn't dodge. Chris saw the plasma beam heading for it. He pushed his throttle to the max. His engine roared. He flew in front of the transport ship. The beam hit Chris's shields. His ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed in his cockpit. "Shields critical," the computer voice said. I know," Chris shouted. He gritted his teeth. He pressed the button to launch his missiles. 2 rockets flew out from his wings. They spiraled toward the Vex destroyer. They hit the alien ship right in the engines. The destroyer spun out of control and crashed into another Vex ship. Both ships exploded in a giant flash of light. Chris banked hard and flew away from the explosion. He looked at his sensor screen. There were still so many enemies. "That was for Harrison," Chris whispered to the empty cockpit. Back on the iron will, the battle was getting worse. The Vex were surprised, but they were not stupid. They realized they were under attack. They started to group together. They formed a defensive circle. Their shields overlapped, making a wall of energy. Our weapons are not getting through. Sarah shouted. The front line is too strong. Kevin looked at the tactical map. The Vex were running away, but they were protecting their escape. They were trying to retreat to a nearby planet to hide. They think they can hide behind their shields, Kevin said. He stood up. Tom, can we send a message to the other ships? Yes, sir, Tom said. The channel is open. Kevin walked to the microphone. He didn't want to give a speech. He just wanted them to know what to do. This is Kevin, he said. His voice was calm, but hard. All ships, stop firing energy weapons. Switch to solid ammo. Use the rail guns. Use the missiles. Their shields stop energy, but they can't stop mass. Focus all fire on one point. Break their wall like you break a window. Kevin sat back down. Target the ship in the middle of their formation. The one with the gold stripe. That is their leader. The human ships adjusted. They stopped firing lasers. They aimed their rail guns. They waited for the right moment. Fire, Kevin whispered. The human fleet fired as one. Thousands of metal rods flew toward the same spot. It was like a rain of spears. They hit the gold-striped ship. The first few took down the shields. The next few punched holes in the hull. The rest went inside. The Vex flagship broke in half. The two pieces floated in space, fire leaking out. With their leader gone and their formation broken, the Vex will to fight collapsed. They are running. Tom shouted. They are jumping away. On the screen, the Vex ships flickered and disappeared. They used their warp drives to run to the other side of the galaxy. The space around Saturn was quiet again. There was only smoke and debris floating where the enemy fleet used to be. Kevin sat back in his chair. He let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked around the bridge. Some people were crying. Others were hugging. Report, Kevin said. We won, sir, Sarah said. She was smiling. We drove them off, Kevin nodded. Did we get the commander? We saw his ship break apart, Sarah said. He is gone. Kevin looked at the empty spot on the screen where the Vex had been. He didn't feel happy. He felt tired. Tom, Kevin said. Send a message to Earth. Tell David, tell them the area is secure. Yes, sir, Tom said. And what do we do now? Kevin looked at his crew. He looked at the young men and women who had just fought their first battle. They had done well. They had made the aliens pay for what they did. Now, Kevin said. We fix our ship. And then we go find the rest of them. Kevin picked up his cold cup of coffee. He looked at the brown liquid. He thought about Harrison again. Harrison would have hated this. He would have hated the fighting and the killing. But Harrison was dead. And Kevin was alive. And as long as he was alive, he would make sure that the aliens regretted the day they made the humans angry. The iron will turn slowly in space. Its engines glowed blue. It started to move toward the Vex home territory. The humans were not stopping at Saturn. They were just getting started. The stars were bright ahead of them, but the path forward was going to be dark. And Kevin was ready to lead them into the dark. The Vex home world was a cold place. It was a planet of hard rock and metal. There were no trees, no grass, and no blue oceans. The cities were tall, sharp towers made of black steel. The Vex liked things to be clean and orderly. They liked silence. But today, the sky was not silent. The sky was on fire. Human ships dropped from the clouds like rain. They were big, ugly transport ships. They didn't land gently. They crashed into the ground, kicking up dirt and dust. The ramps on the front of the ships opened, and the humans came out. They did not march in neat lines like the Vex. They ran. They shouted. They looked like a swarm of angry bees. At the front of the swarm was Justin. He was a sergeant. He wore heavy armor that was painted gray. He held a big rifle in his hands. His helmet had a scratch on the side, a mark from a previous battle. Justin looked around the battlefield. The ground was red, lit by the fires of the drop ships. The Vex were waiting for them. The Vex soldiers stood in perfect rows behind their energy shields. They fired blue beams of light at the humans. Move! Move! Justin yelled to his team. He grabbed a young soldier named Mike and pushed him behind a rock. Keep your head down, kid. Mike was shaking. He had never been on an alien planet before. They are shooting lasers at us, Sarge. Lasers. Yeah, and they are missing. Justin shouted back. He popped up from behind the rock and fired his rifle. His gun made a loud thumping sound. It shot solid metal slugs, not lasers. The bullets hit the Vex shield and sparked, but Justin kept shooting. He knew that if he hit the same spot enough times, the shield would break. The Vex were confused. Their computers were trying to understand the humans. The Vex logic was simple: if an enemy shoots at you, you shoot back from far away. If you are losing, you run away. But the humans were not running away. They were running closer. Justin pressed a button on his chest. Team, on me. We are rushing them. Rushing, Mike asked. His eyes were wide. They are over there. That is the point. Justin yelled. Get close. If we get close, their big guns can't aim at us. Justin stood up and ran. He ran straight at the line of Vex soldiers. His team, 10 strong men and women, ran with him. The Vex fired their blue beams. One beam hit a soldier next to Justin, a woman named Jen. She fell. Justin didn't stop. He didn't even look down. He just got angrier. He screamed a war cry that scared even the aliens. He reached the Vex line. A Vex soldier pointed its gun at Justin's chest. It was too close to shoot. Justin swung his rifle like a baseball bat. He smashed the butt of the gun into the alien's metal face. Crack! The alien fell down. Justin pulled a knife from his belt. It was a big, serrated knife. He stabbed the alien in the neck joint. Black oil sprayed out. The alien twitched and stopped moving. Behind him, the rest of his team crashed into the Vex line. It was not a battle of technology anymore. It was a brawl. Humans were fighting aliens with knives, fists, and rifles. The Vex were not programmed for this. Their computers didn't know what to do when the enemy was biting them. The humans fought with a fury that the Vex could not understand. The Vex fought for duty. The humans fought for Harrison. They fought for the old man who was killed for no reason. Every time a human stabbed an alien, they thought of the president. I hate these guys. Mike shouted. He was shooting his shotgun into a group of aliens. The blast blew them backward. Take that. Don't get emotional, Mike. Just kill them. Justin reloaded his gun. He looked around. The first wave of Vex was dead. But there were more coming. Push forward. We need to take that tower. Justin pointed to a tall building in the middle of the city. That was the command center. That was where the alien leader was. High above the city, inside the tallest tower, the Vex commander was watching. He was not the same commander who had killed Harrison. That one was dead. This was a new commander. He stood in a room with glass walls looking down at the battle. He watched the screens that showed the fighting. He saw humans running through fire. He saw humans ignoring wounds that should be fatal. He saw a human soldier with only one arm still trying to fire a gun. The Vex commander turned to his second in command. The second in command was a tall, thin robot. Analysis, the commander asked. The humans are unpredictable, the second in command said in a robotic voice. They do not fear death. Our models say they should retreat when they lose 20% of their force. They have lost 50%, and they are attacking harder. The commander felt a strange feeling in his core. It was fear. He was a machine, but he was programmed to survive. And these biological creatures were a threat to his survival. Why, the commander asked. We killed their leader. That should make them stop. That should break their spirit. We do not understand, the second in command said. Their logic is flawed. They are angry. Back on the ground, the battle had moved into the streets. The humans were going from building to building. They were clearing the rooms. Justin kicked open a door. A Vex soldier was inside, guarding a computer terminal. The alien turned around, surprised. Justin didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. 3 shots. The alien fell. Clear. Justin shouted. He walked into the room. He looked at the computer terminal. It had strange symbols on it. Sarge, look at this, Mike said. He pointed to a picture on the wall. It was a drawing of the Vex fleet destroying Earth. They were planning to kill us all. Justin looked at the picture. His grip on his rifle tightened. His knuckles turned white. Yeah, Justin said. I know. He looked out the window. He could see the command tower in the distance. It was heavily guarded. There were big guns on the outside. We need to get up there, Justin said. Command says the Vex leader is in that tower. How are we going to get in? Mike asked. They have shields on the doors. Justin looked at his team. They were tired. They were dirty. They were bleeding. But their eyes were burning. They wanted to finish this. We don't use the door, Justin said. We make our own door. Justin clicked his radio. Ryan, are you there? Static, then a voice. I am here, Justin. Go ahead. We are at the base of the tower, Justin said. The doors are shut. We need a hole. Understood, Ryan said. Stand by. Justin looked up at the sky. Everyone, take cover. High above, a human battleship flew over the tower. It dropped a long metal cylinder. It hit the side of the tower and stuck there. Then, it exploded. Boom. The explosion was loud and bright. It blew a huge hole in the side of the building. Debris rained down on the street. Go. 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 Justin yelled. The humans charged toward the hole in the wall. They climbed over the rubble. They ran up the stairs inside the tower. The Vex inside were confused by the explosion. The humans shot them before they could even raise their guns. They fought their way up floor after floor. It was a long climb. They didn't take the elevators because the Vex would trap them. They took the stairs. They fought in the hallways. They fought in the offices. They fought like animals. Finally, they reached the top floor. They kicked the door down. The room was big and empty. There was glass all around. And standing in the middle of the room was the Vex commander. The commander was tall. He wore a cape made of silver wire. He had a weapon in his hand, but he didn't raise it. He looked at the humans. They were covered in dirt and blood. They breathed hard. Their armor was scratched. Justin walked forward. He pointed his gun at the commander. "Game over," Justin said. The Vex commander looked at Justin. He looked at the other humans. He looked at the madness in their eyes. He realized that he couldn't win. He could kill them, yes. He could blow up the room. But more humans would just come. They would never stop. They would chase him to the end of the universe. The commander dropped his weapon. It made a loud clang on the metal floor. "We surrender," the commander said. The humans in the room didn't cheer. They just kept their guns raised. They didn't trust him. Justin walked up to the commander. He looked the alien in the eye. "You shouldn't have killed him," Justin said. "He was a good man. He wanted to be friends." The commander said nothing. "Tie him up," Justin ordered. "Take him downstairs." The humans grabbed the commander. They dragged him away. Justin walked to the window. He looked out over the city. The fires were still burning, but the shooting was stopping. The Vex soldiers on the ground were laying down their weapons. Justin watched the smoke rise. He was tired. He wanted to go home. But he knew the war wasn't over yet. They had won the battle, but they still had to make sure the aliens remembered. He took off his helmet. He took a deep breath of the alien air. It smelled like burnt metal and ozone. It wasn't a good smell, but to Justin, it smelled like victory. "We did it, Harrison," Justin whispered to the sky. "We got them." The sun began to rise over the horizon. It was a red sun, casting a red light over the battlefield. The shadows of the humans stretched out long and dark against the walls. The fury of Earth had arrived, and the Vex world would never be the same. The war was over. The fires on the Vex home world had turned to smoke. The big guns were silent. In the center of the main Vex city, stood the building that used to be the enemy headquarters. Now, it was the human command post. Inside the biggest room, the Vex commander stood in the middle of the floor. His armor was broken. He had oil on his face. He was not standing tall anymore. He looked small. He was surrounded by human soldiers. The soldiers held their guns tight. They looked at the alien with hate in their eyes. They remembered the friends they lost in the battles. They remembered the burned cities on Earth. Two men walked into the room. The soldiers stepped aside to let them pass. The first man was James. He was the captain of the guard who had started the fight on the bridge. He walked with a limp now, but he held his head high. The second man was David. He was the old general. He looked tired, and his uniform was dusty, but he had a powerful presence. Behind them came Mark, Harrison's old advisor. The Vex commander looked at these humans. He expected them to scream at him. He expected them to torture him or kill him right there. That is what the Vex would do. That is what many other species would do. "Are you going to kill me?" the Vex commander asked. His voice sounded weak. David stopped a few feet away from the alien. He looked at the commander for a long time. The room was very quiet. The only sound was the hum of the machines outside the window. "We are not going to kill you," David said. His voice was calm. The Vex commander looked surprised. "Why, you are monsters. You destroyed our fleet. You invaded our planet. You killed thousands of my soldiers. You are angry. I can see it in your eyes." David shook his head slowly. "We are not monsters. We are humans. And we are not animals. We do not kill prisoners. We do not kill people who have surrendered." James stepped forward. He reached into his pocket and took out a small, folded piece of paper. He unfolded it. It was a photograph. It showed Harrison smiling, standing in a garden. "You killed this man," James said. He held the photo up so the alien could see. "He was the best of us. He was kind. He wanted to help you." The Vex commander looked at the photo. "He was weak," the alien said. "No," Mark said softly. "He was strong. It is easy to shoot someone. It is easy to start a war. But he was strong enough to try to make peace. You killed him because you were afraid of his ideas." David took the photo from James and looked at it one last time. Then, he put it away. "We are not going to occupy your cities," David said to the alien. "We are not going to take your homes. We are not going to make you slaves." The Vex commander did not understand. "Then what do you want? Why did you come?" "We are going to take your ships," David said. "We are going to take your advanced technology. We are going to take your weapons. We will dismantle your war machine so you can never hurt anyone again." David stepped closer. He looked the alien right in the eyes. "And we are going to leave you here," David said. "We are going to leave you to live in your broken city. We are going to leave you to look at the sky and remember. You will remember that you killed a good man. And you will remember that when you made us angry, we came to your door and we took everything from you. We want you to live," David said. "We want you to live a long time. We want you to have years and years to think about what you did. That is your punishment. Shame. You will live with the shame of defeat." The Vex commander lowered his head. For a machine, this was a hard thing to understand. But he felt a heavy weight in his chest. He realized that death would have been easier. "Take me away," the alien said. David nodded to the soldiers. "Take him to a transport ship. Keep him safe." The soldiers grabbed the alien and led him out of the room. David, James, and Mark were left alone. They walked over to the large glass window. They looked out at the city. It was a mess. Buildings were knocked down. Fires were still smoking, but in the middle of the plaza, human engineers were building something. They were building a statue. It was not a statue of a soldier. It was not a statue of David or James. It was a statue of Harrison. It was made of white marble. It showed him standing with his hand out, offering peace. It looked simple and beautiful. James looked at the statue. "I wonder if he would be proud of us," James said. "We killed so many. We destroyed so much. We didn't do what he wanted." Mark shook his head. "He wanted to protect Earth, James. He wanted us to be safe. We did that. We didn't start the fight, but we finished it." David stood there with his hands behind his back. He looked at the stars in the sky above the alien city. The stars were very bright. I think he would be sad that there was war, David said quietly. But I think he would understand. Peace is a garden, James. You have to pull the weeds if you want the flowers to grow. Sometimes, you have to be hard so that later, you can be soft. David turned around. Come on. It is time to go home. They walked out of the building. They walked down the long ramp to the spaceport. The human soldiers were marching back to the ships. They didn't look arrogant. They looked quiet. They had done a job, and now they wanted to go back to their families. They boarded the big ships. The engines roared to life. Slowly, the human ships lifted off from the alien soil. They rose up into the sky, leaving the Vex homeworld behind. On the bridge of the main ship, David sat in the captain's chair. He watched the Vex planet get smaller on the screen. Ryan, the young strategist, walked over to him. The fleet is ready to jump, sir. We are going home. Yes, David said. We are going home. Ryan looked at the screen. Do you think the galaxy will leave us alone now? David smiled a little bit. It was a tired smile. For a while, yes. They will be afraid of us. They will whisper stories about the humans. They will say that we are crazy. They will say that we are dangerous. They will say, do not touch the humans, or they will burn your sky. And that is okay, Ryan asked. That is more than okay, David said. Let them be afraid. If they are afraid, they won't attack. And if they don't attack, we can have peace. David leaned back in his chair. So, we won. But let us not forget the price. He looked around the bridge. Everyone was working. Everyone was focused. Set course for Earth, David ordered. Maximum speed. The ship turned. The stars stretched out into lines of light as the ship jumped into hyperspace. The journey back would be long, but nobody minded. Inside the ship, in a small quiet room, Mark sat at a desk. He opened a drawer. He took out a pen and some paper. He started to write. He was writing a letter to Harrison's wife. He wanted to tell her that the man who killed her husband was not dead, but that he was sorry. He wanted to tell her that the universe was a safer place now. It was hard to find the right words. How do you explain the fury of a whole planet? How do you explain that love made them kill? But he tried. He wrote slowly and carefully. Back on the bridge, James stood next to the window. He watched the blue streak of light passing by. He thought about the future. He thought about the kids who would be born on Earth. They would grow up in a galaxy that respected humanity. They would grow up safe. We did it, Harrison, James whispered again. We shook the stars. The ship flew through the dark emptiness of space, carrying the humans home. They were different now than when they left. They had seen death. They had given death. But they were still together. The galaxy was silent. The war was over. The anger had burned hot, but now it was cooling down into something stronger. It was a resolve. A promise. The humans would not be bullied. They would not be stepped on. They would be the guardians of their own destiny. And somewhere, in the vast darkness, the spirit of a kind old man was watching. And he was proud. The end.